Hello, everyone. It's gonna be a kind of a long rant, but I'm just tired of seeing it. Anyways, hope you're all doing well. But I'm just so sick and tired of these Jews in Congress voting against Israel. On some of these issues, like condemning Hamas, there are Jews voting against these bills. Why on earth would these nothing burger bills that are brought to the House floor for easy and quick passage be voted no by anyone, let alone Jews? Off the top of my head, I can't think of or justify bigger cowardly pussies than the names I'm going to list who ran and hid when called upon to help their family, Jews. Jews who are fighting a terrorist organization who committed terrorist atrocities that you cocksuckers voted against, and I want to know why. H.R. 6126, it's for money and weapons. The bill provides $14.3 billion in emergency supplemental appropriations. It's fully offset to provide military assistance to our great ally, Israel, and ensure the safe return of American citizens impacted by the attacks on Israel. You know, the 31 Americans who were slaughtered and the 10 who remain hostages that we hope are still, alive today. So we have 31 Americans murdered, 10 more held hostage. Do you think the U.S. plans to invade Gaza? Or do you think maybe, just maybe, those funds will be used by Israel to further punish Hamas without U.S. involvement? And as a reminder to show support, the President of the United States said on television, laptops, iPads, iPhones, whatever, in front of the whole world for everyone to see and hear that the U.S. will be sending military equipment immediately to Israel. The promise of our president, who represents a country with its only ally in the Middle East and arguably the U.S.'s best friend on the planet. Anyway, here are Jews that voted against H.R. 6126, and I or we want to know the justification. Furthermore, I would really like to hear from the constituents of these pussies. Nay, Adam Schiff. Nay, Dan Goldman. Nay, Jerry Nadler. Nay, Steve Cohen. Nay, Suzanne Bonamici. Nay, Sarah Jacobs. Nay, Jan Schakowsky. The good news is that the House of Representatives passed the bipartisan Israel Security Supplemental Appropriations Act, H.R. 6126, without those cowards whose mantra of never again means what? What could possibly go through their heads to say nay to a bill that the Democratic president and head of the Democratic Party wants done, and you, as Jews, vote no? Also, when did the Democratic Party leave their closest ally, Israel, and vote as a bloc against? It seems like all new legislation coming out of the U.S. regarding Israel is mainly supported by Republicans. This bill had 194 Democrats vote against it. Why? Again, to any Jew in Congress, you're voting nay on legislation helping our strongest ally in a country where you're granted automatic citizenship, you cowards. Well, at least you have made it easy to let us know where you stand regarding never again. This bill provides Israel with additional resources needed to defend itself against a terrorist government who would rape, sodomize, burn, behead, kidnap, and I repeat, any Westerners, if given the chance. If Hamas wins this war they started, well, Europe and the U.S., we would be on the clock. Unlike Hamas and every terrorist government in the world who would take 30 to 50% of those funds off the top for their leaders of their cause, Israel is taking the funds for military hardware. This $14.3 billion aid package would ensure American military readiness and replenish domestic defense stockpiles, also bolster Israel's defense capabilities and replenish the Iron Dome, and this also support artillery and munitions production, enhance security at the United States Embassy in Jerusalem, which I'm sure those who voted against this bill don't give a shit. Now, I also want to condemn the weakest of them all. Your friend and mine, let's welcome in Bernie Sanders. Bernie has once again opened his trap about the Israeli-Palestinian war. What do you think his opinion is? There are two things that Bernie has done and done well. Number one, getting elected. When Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said at one of Bernie's rallies that, quote, one major reason I support Bernie is his consistency when things are hard. Not only does Bernie reject corporate money in 2020, he's also never taken corporate lobbyist money in his entire political career. Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, using asterisks for emphasis, he is a real one, and in politics that is nearly impossible to find. Alexandra, if you would have said Bernie invented the straw, that would have been more believable than Bernie not taking corporate money from any of his elections that he ran for. Who comes up with this stuff? Just looking at his last election, the first companies that came up, Google, Amazon, Apple, U.S. Postal Service, Microsoft. What the I already know what a dumbass Cortez is with her position on Israel. But my gosh, woman, Bernie Sanders has never taken corporate lobbyist money is just simply a blatant, patent lie. And number two with Bernie, and he is phenomenal at this. Number two, spending taxpayers' money. Furthermore, with all of his progressive rhetoric, do you know how many progressive laws he sponsored that were made into law? I'm going to give you a hint. The number is higher than zero, but less than one. If anyone voted for Bernie because of his leftist and progressive horseshit he spewed, you were duped. He did nothing. I repeat, he did nothing for you. How about healthcare, Bernie? Quote, the provisions brought together Democrats on the left with Democrats from conservative rural areas, helping to secure the 60 votes needed for passage. On May 4, 2017, in response to the House vote to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, he predicted, quote, thousands of Americans would die, unquote, and also from no longer having access to health care. Bernie, currently, today's date, currently there are 26 million Americans without health care. You championed one of the worst bills in the history of the United States, but you at least championed a bill that would get everyone in this country's health care covered. That's a ... capital L, capital O, capital L. Not even fucking close. I mean, it's just an absolute outrageous lie. And you, Bernie, as a charlatan, trying scare tactics on a bill that I now deem, I deem as the second worst piece of legislation in U.S. history. You've been preaching for the only thing that could possibly be worse than Obamacare, and that is, this is Bernie, quote, a single-payer healthcare system, end quote. You preach it because you're a moron. Remember, this is the same healthcare that Bernie and his fellow cronies agreed not to have for themselves. Instead, they voted themselves real insurance policies. Google it. Look it up, what their insurance covers. Bernie, you had your chance. There was a time before everyone found out you were full of shit, that you were rising in popularity with voters. What did you do with that newfound political power? Nothing. Did nothing. Bernie Sanders has been on the wrong side of every piece of legislation on income, wealth distribution, health care, the weather, whatever. Bernie would have you believe that he would have to split a pot, okay, if he was holding a royal flush with 10 guys at the table. No, he wouldn't. There's usually a time during a week, any week, where Bernie has to go onto one of his rants regarding wealth distribution. Anyway, I quickly Googled one of those rants where he specifically called out Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett owning more wealth than the bottom half of the U.S. population. I won't go in with the amount of taxes paid by the largest 1% earners in the U.S., but here's a typical Bernie rant where the change of outcome, again, was nothing. And there was a recent report from the Institute for Policy Studies which listed three people, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett. And then the bottom half of the U.S. population's standards stated that, quote, we must end global oligarchy, and that we need in the United States and throughout the world a tax system which is fair, progressive, and transparent, end quote. This is what idiots like Bernie doesn't seem to understand. Let me make it easy for you. Who gives a shit what Bezos, Gates, and Buffett make? Why? Well, that is how our system of economics works in this country. And also, and as important as the first, those three men employ over 3 million people, which is 3 million more than any jobs Bernie Sanders has fucking created. Bernie, when you're bored, add up all the people that they work work for and with, and all the affiliated companies, and having their payables and receivables with Amazon, Microsoft, and Berkshire Hathaway's companies, and use a decent annual salary. So you add up to $3 million plus, put a salary in, okay, 50, 55,000, whatever it may be. Add that all up, okay, and then figure out what taxes that is generate annually, not one time, annually. All right, and then add up the three companies that Bezos, Gates, and Buffett. Oh, sorry, multi companies that they own, and then you add up the economics between not only what they generate in revenue, but the companies that they deal with, okay, or sell to. It's a crazy amount of money, and so there are just billions upon billions upon billions. They also go into city and state dollars every year from those companies. Also, Bernie, are you saying Bezos, Gates, and Buffett paid $0 in taxes? Let me see if I can find that out. You realize that their wealth isn't tied to a salary, right? Their money either stays in the company and the company owes them money, or by far, that their wealth is in their own stock. If Tesla stock goes up, guess whose stock in their portfolio goes up? How about anybody with Tesla stock? They don't pay taxes on their stocks until they sell it. At that point, they pay capital gains, and you already know this, but let's tax the shit out of all the ones who create jobs. And dumbass, outside of Congress, a body that generates zero income and who last year alone had to borrow an additional $1.6+ trillion to cover all of our government's payables. Anyone, I repeat, anyone in Congress who opens their trap on taxes and spending is someone I immediately know is a dumbass. Bernie, you have only one job: spend. So understand this. No one, I repeat, no one wakes up in the morning and says to themselves, what business can I start today where I can pay all of it to the federal government? Anyway, I'm getting off track about Bernie, the socialist who makes all of these groundbreaking decisions in one of his three homes. Bernie, you need to go back to some radicalized college campus and charm them with your uncreative wit and waste of time campaign promises that never amount to shit. The adults in the room are now telling you to keep your fucking mouth shut with anything Israel. I will give you props, though. I'll give you props on being the more accomplished in doing less with their own party than Jill Stein. So it's not like I don't recognize talent. The most popular thing that became of you was an overused meme of yourself sitting on your ass wearing an ineffective mask while falling asleep. I decided to write about you when I read this article. Here are a few comments from you. Senator Bernie Sanders called out Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday as Israel restarted attacks on its war on Hamas after a roughly week-long truce. Netanyahu's resumption of bombing in Gaza is beyond the pale, Sanders posted on X, the platform previously known as Twitter. Quote, 2 million people are now in South Gaza. Many have fled earlier fighting in the north, end quote. Bernie, again, how about you shut your mouth? You're almost out to pasture by now, and since your opinion has never been taken seriously by your coworkers, there's no need for you to cower to voters, who won't be voting for you anyways. Let's take a quick look at your voting record regarding Israel. I just looked these up, quickly, so who knows the total amount. Number one, you supported the Iran deal. 2, you supported re-entering the fucking stupid Iran deal. 3, did not support moving the embassy back to Jerusalem. 4, you opposed the Israeli Anti-Boycott Act. 5, you supported the UN Security Resolution 2334, which claims that Israel's settlements have no legal validity, and applauded the decision of President Obama's administration to not veto it. Bernie. I'll stop there. I assure you there's plenty more from this fluffer. I'm just getting too pissed off about it. I am. Also, the information I got is from the American Jewish Congress, so if any of those are incorrect, please let them know. But Bernie Sanders, you are a spineless, weak-minded, underachieving, sellout pussy. Your accomplishments are extremely overrated, and you achieved nothing for the Progressive Party. You're a Jew that somehow got elected to the House and Senate, and a couple times a year when something was brought up about Israel, you gave them no support and allowed a lot of people to use your vote as a Jew to justify theirs. Congrats, asshole. And take your way, way, way overdue ass out of Congress so your state can elect someone who may actually do something for them. Sanders is also a big supporter of BDS, which blatantly fucks over Israel. Since you're almost out, I'll say this to the new progressives who are starting to slowly rise in Congress and certainly on volume at the local levels. I will say it's okay to vote for issues that you're passionate about, and hopefully you're honest with the voting public about your stances. But don't be like Bernie and abandon issues which are part of you, your family, your culture, your traditions, and your upbringings. Just throw them away. So just be honest with yourselves and let your constituents know that. Don't be spineless, cowardice, and have your voting record in the history books that will be documented by your name forever. Don't be like Bernie Sanders. Let me give an example that highlights why most people do little amounts of research on political candidates. Bernie Sanders is a proud, card-carrying draft dodger who got out of service as a conscientious objector. So, anyone voting for the President of the United States who will not go to war under any circumstance should not receive a vote. If 9/11 happened under Bernie's watch, we would have sent a very, very mean letter as a response. I mean, how could a conscientious objector sign off on sending any of our troops anywhere, right? I mean, so who the fuck is he to lecture Israel for their response to 10/7, October 7th? Is that how it works with a conscientious objector, Bernie? Pussy. Bernie voted for the United States military action in Bosnia, Kosovo, and 9/11. Is there even one shred of humility, even a small shred for Bernie, who will not defend his country militarily, but will vote to send others? Again, Bernie, you do nothing for our people who agreed to follow and uphold never again. Yet you consistently back down like the coward you are, even when non-Jews have stepped up and acted on the bills you should be championing, yet you cower to. It's shameful, and you're shameful. There's nothing, I repeat, nothing politically that can be more of a slap in the face to all Americans than to have a president of the United States be a draft dodger while signing legislation that puts our soldiers into war. The Cat Institute wrote, quote, referring to Bernie, he has been more anti-war in his public statement and writings than his actual voting record. I could go on and on with this fucking clown, a man who will be remembered by his annoying, whiny voice. He's another person in the Jill Stein mode who has done nothing for the advancement of their parties, even though this country is begging for more than two parties. And a man who is so fortunate to be Jewish. And certainly he could have helped, as his psychotic, moronic, and idiotic individuals are driving anti-Semitism to new levels in this country. But instead, he just confirms the meme that he has become. Bernie Sanders, you can go f*** yourself. Thank you.